Hello, everyone. In the previous video of my series, Lost in Translation, I went to the prophet Isaiah in the Hebrew Bible, chapter 7, and one of his most famous and well-known prophecies, very important to the New Testament and to Christianity. A virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and you will call his name Emmanuel. I want to talk about that name, Emmanuel. Everyone would think today that it refers to Jesus and a virgin shall conceive, the virgin birth. It's quoted in the Gospel of Matthew, as we saw last time. Handel's Messiah has really elevated that interpretation to such a high level of art and musical expression and powerful words that it's hard to even suggest any other meaning. Take a listen to this little excerpt from the Herzliya Orchestra in Israel.
Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel, God with us.
Okay, what I want to do now then is to take a look at the text itself in the wider context. So not just chapter 7, but also chapter 8. And in the next video, I'm also going to do chapter 9. This is really a section of Isaiah that has been Christianized and I think very misunderstood. It's actually quite simple. If you read it in its historical context, the meaning comes through very clearly. And that's one of the things I try to do on my YouTube channel is to read the Bible in the light of its original historical meaning. The Bible can mean many things through the ages to many people and can be used and abused in various ways, misrepresented and mistranslated for theological reasons. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's take a look then at the text itself again. And we'll start with the historical context. We're in the days of Ahaz. Ahaz is the king of Judah, and he's being threatened by Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the king of Israel. This would be the northern kingdom of Israel. Remember, the southern kingdom of Judah and the northern kingdom of Israel have split since the days following Solomon's death. Anyway, these two kings, the king of Syria and the king of Israel, come up to Jerusalem to wage war against it, but they couldn't conquer it. But when the house of David was told, that's the house of the king, the royal family, Syria is in league with Ephraim. Ephraim is another term for the northern kingdom because the largest tribe of the northern kingdom was the tribe of Ephraim. And he's terrified. His heart and the heart of the people shook as the trees of the forest shake before the wind. So Isaiah comes, directed by Yahweh or Jehovah, the Lord. Go meet Ahaz, you and your son. Now, notice, I didn't emphasize this last time because I want to get into the idea of these children of Isaiah. These children have very strange names. So this son of Isaiah, his name is Sha'ar Yashuv. It means a remnant will return. So it's talking about an exile and the idea that a remnant would come. So something very, very important is about to happen. So he takes his son as a sign, as we're going to see, to the king. And it even tells where it is, the upper pool on the highway to the fuller's field. And here's what Isaiah is to tell the king. Take heed, be quiet, do not fear, do not let your heart be faint because of these two smoldering stumps of firebrands. You see the imagery. They're smoking torches about to go out. The fierce anger of Rezin, he's the king of Syria, and the son of Ramaliah, which is said to be up here, Pekah, the king of the northern kingdom. And again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz and said, ask a sign of the Lord, but let it be deep as Sheol and high as heaven. He wants a really major sign. So the offer here is from God through Isaiah to speak to the king Ahaz and say, if you want proof that you don't need to worry about these smoking stumps of firebrands, these two countries that are coming to attack you, I'll give you a sign. Ask for anything. And the king says, I don't want to ask. I don't want to put the Lord to the test. Now, notice this. Hear then, O house of David. This is a prophecy for the royal family. Is it too little for you to weary men that you weary my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. And here it is. Behold, a young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Emmanuel literally means God with us. So here's a son, Shear Jashub, a remnant will return. These names have meanings. God with us. So you can see the idea here is this new child, the second child is going to be born, and his name is going to be God with us. So you don't need to worry about these two kings. That's the context. Now, how quickly is this going to happen? Right away, as we're going to see. We actually get the birth of the child in the next chapter. Everybody seems to ignore that when they just pull this out of context. And I'm certainly not blaming Handel here or even the King James Version, because this is just Christian interpretation for 2,000 years. So what about the child? He's going to eat curds and honey, and when he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, something's going to happen. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted. So this disaster is going to come on the northern kingdom. That's what the king of Judah in the south is being told. His headquarters is at the temple in Jerusalem. And the Lord will bring upon you and upon your people, upon your father's house, such days as have not come since the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. So what's going to happen? Forget Syria. That's just a vassal power to the north of the northern kingdom of Israel. The Lord is going to whistle for the fly, which is at the sources of the streams of Egypt, and for the bee, which is in the land of Assyria. And they will all come and settle in the steep ravines and cliffs of the rocks. So you see the imagery here, that it's going to be like a bunch of wasps or bees coming from the land of Assyria and the streams of Egypt. And in that day, the Lord will shave with a razor that is hired beyond the river, with the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria is going to be like a razor, and it's going to go over the head and all the way down to the hair of the feet and the beard. In other words, the whole body will be stripped bare of the hair. That's the image, meaning the country in the north by the Assyrian captivity. Now that happened in 721, so it's very near to this, before the child grows up and becomes accountable. Okay, let's go on. Then the Lord said to me, now notice this is chapter 8, and this is what people miss. Take a large tablet and write upon it in common characters belonging to Maher Shalahashbaz. And what that means is the spoil speeds, the prey hastens. Think of a fox chasing a rabbit. So the spoil is speeding, running after the prey, the rabbit. He gets two witnesses, Uriah the priest and Zechariah, to attest for him. And then notice this. I went to the prophetess, presumably his wife, and she conceived and bore a son. That's what we read up here. A young woman shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. This child has a double name. So then the Lord said to me, call his name Maher Shalahashbaz. Okay. The spoil speeds, the prey hastens. For before the child knows how to cry, my father or my mother The wealth of Damascus, that's the capital of Syria, and the spoil of Samaria, that's the capital of the northern kingdom, will be carried away before the king of Assyria. And the Lord spoke to me again, because this people have refused the waters of Shiloah that flow gently and melt in fear before Rezin, that's the son of Remaliah that they're afraid of. Therefore, behold, the Lord is bringing up against them the waters of the river, mighty and many, the king of Assyria. So if you're afraid of the gentle waters of the Shiloah, which is a natural spring in Jerusalem, and you're going to melt with fear just at the rumor of this happening, what about when the mighty river of the king of Assyria comes and it rises over the channels and over its banks and sweeps up into Judea and overflows and gets right up to the neck where you're ready to drown? And that's exactly what happened when the Assyrians took the north. They came right down to the south, just north of Jerusalem, and its outspread wings will fill the breadth of your land. It's going to completely take over what's called the land of Israel. Notice, O Emmanuel, meaning, oh, God is with us. So the child's name is essentially Maher-shalal-hash-baz, but the significance of the name is Emmanuel, God is with us. So the whole idea here is that don't worry, God is going to take care of your enemies, bringing the king of Assyria into the land. And then we have some more. Be broken, you peoples, and be dismayed. Give ear, all you far countries. Gird yourselves and be dismayed. Gird yourselves and be dismayed. Take counsel together, but it will come to naught. Speak a word, it will not stand. O Emmanuel. Now notice the birth of this child, Melar-shalal-hash-baz, clearly the son of Isaiah from his wife, his second son, who has this unique name, is a sign of Emmanuel, God is with us. So it's not referring to the Messiah, the Davidic Messiah that's going to come. It's not referring to anything of that sort, and it's certainly not referring to Jesus or any kind of virgin birth. A young woman shall conceive. The whole idea of translating it as virgin in English, even Parthenos in Greek, in the book of Matthew and in the Septuagint, doesn't necessarily mean a woman who's never had any children. And certainly young woman, Alma, does not have to mean a woman who's had no children. It doesn't even mean virgin. It just means a young woman of marriageable age, as I covered last time. Now, then we get more. Bind up the testimony, seal the teaching among my disciples. So something's going to happen. I will wait for the Lord who's hiding his face from the house of Jacob, and I will hope in him. So what's going to happen is God is going to split the nation of Israel, not just north and south, but literally carry away 90% of the country into exile, north into Assyria. They became the so-called lost tribes or scattered tribes of Israel of great mythology and legend. Now, please notice verse 18. This is Isaiah. Behold, I and the children whom the Lord has given me, these two boys, are signs and portents in Israel from the Lord of hosts who dwells in Zion. Now, when God hides his face, how are you going to get hold of God? There's not going to be any word, no prophet. There'll be what Amos calls a famine of the word, the prophet Amos in the Hebrew Bible. So people will turn to mediums that chirp and mutter, wizards. And Isaiah says, shouldn't you turn to God? Should you try to talk to the dead on behalf of the living? Notice this, to the teaching and the testimony. The teaching is the Torah, literally it's the word Torah, and the testimony are the Ten Commandments. Surely for this word which they speak, there's no dawn. There's not going to be any light. This idea that you're going to consult the occult and sort of get some kind of message, some divine message. Instead, you're going to pass through the land distressed and hungry. You're hungry here for food because of a time of war, but also for spiritual revelation. And they'll pass through and they'll be enraged and they'll curse their king and their God and turn their faces upward, and they'll look to the earth and see distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they'll be thrust into thick darkness. So you can see, if you read both chapters, this child is Isaiah's child. It's not a prophecy of Jesus or any Messiah. It's simply saying you don't have to wait long. A child is going to be born of a young woman. Isaiah then goes to his wife, gets her pregnant. The child is born. And guess what? Before the child even begins to grow up and become accountable, the age of accountability, which is usually seen to be early adolescence or pre-adolescence, Syria and the northern kingdom of Israel will not even be a threat at all. The huge nation of Assyria is going to invade the land and almost take Judah right up to the neck with this flood of waters. And these children are signs that you don't have to worry. However, it's going to lead to this famine of the word, this exile where God will hide his face. So you get the idea from the prophet Isaiah that there's a disappointment in the people not turning to God and being terrified and afraid of these minor enemies, these smoldering stumps of firebrands. They're nothing and they will pass away. So Isaiah's Emmanuel is not Jesus. And I love Handel's Messiah, and I'll play some of it again at the end here. But I want you to think about what a text means in its original historical context. And clearly, Emmanuel here and Emmanuel here and Emmanuel here means our God is with us. Don't worry. But a time of exile and famine of the word is coming. See you later, everybody. Take care. And I hope you're learning a lot and enjoying these. And we've got a lot more to dig into. I have a whole list of fascinating passages I want to look at. Hebrew Bible, New Testament, in the coming days and weeks and months.
Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel, God with us. O thou that tellest good tidings to Zion, get thee up into the high mountain. O thou that tellest good tidings to Zion, get thee up into the high mountain. Get thee up into the high O thou that tellest good tidings to Jerusalem, lift up thy voice with strength, lift it up, be not afraid. Say unto the cities of Judah, say unto the cities of Judah, behold your God, behold your God. Say unto the cities of Judah,